Oh well, I got some of the background in the video. Oh well, whatever. Alright, so today I'm going to be doing a Bob Ross type style video. This is the thing that I made. It folds up, it's collapsible, and I have this canvas. This thing folds up into like a tinier version. Alright, so let's get all of our supplies necessary. First and foremost, the palette. Now, I washed this thing a couple times. It was made by Capoletto, made in Italy. Okay, I have no idea what size brushes I need, but I have this whole arsenal of brushes. Let's find out some big ones. I drilled holes in this so that I could place them wherever I need them. I don't know if you could see that on camera. Can you? I like these ones with the blue acrylic base because those are pretty professional. They're more expensive than the others. Alright, let's see here. Let me get this one. And I need a fatty brush so that I could brush the background. One of those. Maybe this one. Yeah, that way I could definitely just brush stroke across or up. I'm thinking about going up and down this time. For some reason I'm feeling odd today. And none of these tiny little makeup brushes. Alright, so let's get some colors. Let's work with some pink. And some orange. Now I know that might not sound too, what do you call it, cohesive, but it actually really does work. Alright, so with the palette, what I'm going to do is mix these colors together. Sometimes the paint gets all like really sticky up in the lid and it turns out like boogers. Come on, you see that? That's what happens when you don't paint too often. There we go. Alright, pink. And orange. Have you ever looked at like a sunset? You notice how the deeper color is. And put some water on the brush since this is brand new. You ever notice how in the sunsets orange is a lot hotter than the pink is, right? Pan this up a little bit. Okay. This is just going to be one of the call it base layers. Now I'm going to brush stroke up and down. I keep on dabbing a little tiny bit of paint on each side of the brush so that way I have a good amount to work with. And also you don't lose all the paint that you have in your arsenal. Some people think that maybe touching up the edges and all that is proper, but yeah, there are different techniques to be able to fill in the edges. Just those little brush strokes that just make it all worthwhile. Now as this orange dries, I'm going to get ready to throw some pink up in there. But first, you got to clean your brush. And just like Bob Ross does, you shake it off like that's something about how he does it. All right. That's still about medium wet, alright? And that's a good time to mix colors is when they're medium wet, because working with acrylics, they eventually blend together really well. Now, I have no idea what I decided to start painting, but it's all coming together. And you know what it looks like? It looks like a forest fire. I don't know, can you see that pretty well? Alright. Maybe. I'll show you the picture during the final product. You might be able to see it a little bit clearer. The sun is shining and it's all looking, well, it's better in person than it is on this YouTube. Alright, brush that off. Alright, so what is the color next is probably more of a green because the opposite on the color wheel of purple is green, and that is going to be able to show the trees. Nope, that's blue. Uh-oh, I gotta find it. Here we go. Ooh, this one's caked over. This one I wanted, if I had a fan brush, I would probably use that to make the trees, but I'm gonna have to improvise and use this one. It's kind of a fatty brush, but you can see how it all bristles out. That way I can do all the brush strokes for trees. Let me get a little bit of gray just so that I can make it just that very hazy type trees. All right. Let's see, this way all I gotta do is just tap it in. Just tap it in, just like Bob Ross says. Just tap it in. You let the brush do all the work for you. When you see how the curls and the movements of the brush does, you can use that to your advantage. And you just tap it in. Trees are always big at the bottom to produce shade and all that. Alright, let's get some gray up in there. How about another happy tree over here? And they always get thicker at the base. That's where most of the plant life comes from, is at the bottom of the tree when it's growing. That's all fresh growth. All the top of the trees is very new, so that's why it's very thin. Alright, so I'm going to let those two trees dry. And what do you think about some mountains or something back there? Yeah, let's do that. I have this this palette knife, and I think that might be a good thing to do some mountains. Okay, I have some tan. And let's see, what else do I have? A little bit of gold. That just gives it a brown color. And remember, I'm working with like limited amount of colors, but you work with what you got with. And you need a little bit of white, if I have any left. Yes, I have a little bit of white left. Smells like bananas. Okay, white, brown, or tan. Now I'm only going to go light with this, so that's why I only need just a couple drops. So you got 3 shades right there. Now here's the tricky part, is doing mountains, is you have the white, middle, and dark. You want to take your palette knife and just very gently scrape so that it gets all 3 colors on it. And you know how mountains, they're not all just one in the background. There's many more in front of them, like happy little mountains. I don't know why my paint is so watery. What the hell is going on? Whatever. It's all gonna turn out fine. Bit darker. No. That's what happens when you make your own easel. Now, even though that I painted those trees in the foreground, I still want to highlight them to show that the fire is coming up from behind. So I'm going to have to mix up some colors like yellow and green. Well, that makes blue, but you know, some kind of like highlights to show that the fire is coming from behind the trees. Meanwhile, this mountain paint can dry. I should probably thin it out by pulling it down. Okay. Scheisse. Well, it's got a little bit of junk on it. All you gotta do is pull it down, and that will begin the reflection stage of the next thing after this dries. That was one thing I was thinking about, is building something else up here on top of the on top of this, like maybe a bar or something like right across here, so that when I'm working on a smaller canvas, it would be able to just sit right there properly. Other than that, it just falls right through. Let's do some happy little clouds. Take some of this white. Here's a trick. Put a little bit of white on your paintbrush. Put your finger on it and just flick it. And just sprinkle it on. Gives the effect that it is there, but it really isn't there. And now I'm going to smudge it. As the clouds are further away, they're a lot smaller. And that's when you go into fine detail. Of course, the bigger clouds are more closer in perspective. And that's the cool thing about clouds, is that it doesn't really matter what they look like. If it's a bunny rabbit, a kangaroo, or whatever your imagination is, clouds are very versatile like that. One time I was flying, I forget where, it was above the sky, and I saw clouds from the top looking down on top of them, and I saw a chessboard, and there was a knight and all of the chess pieces, all the pawns and everything, like God was playing a chess game. And it was just so amazing to me that it's like, it's all in your own imagination about how you perceive them. Okay, alright, what was I talking about? Yellow. Alright, that is done. Let me get this one. Has a good tip. It's very dry, it's very malleable. So what I'm going to do is just very lightly take a tiny little bit on the tip. And what I'm doing is accentuating the highlights on the left side and also the right side, so that you can see that that's where the light source is coming from. I'm going to make this one a little bit darker because it's closer to us. But it still has a little bit of light refraction going on. I'm not all up to date with all my terms and everything. All I do is I just paint. And that is how... Why am I even talking? How can Bob Ross even talk while he's painting? When he was painting. I forgot he passed away. God bless his soul. Yeah, I kind of screwed that one up. I'll get some more green in there. It's kind of weird shooting a video at this angle and painting at a left angle. I noticed I tried to get a hair off of there, and guess what? There, I spilled paint on it. Let's see, how do I fix that? Let me go back to that pink color. What was it, pink and orange from the beginning of the video? And I'm just going to do a little cover up. That's the problem with using old brushes, is like there's hairs that keep on continuously falling out of the damn thing. Whatever. That just adds to more of the authenticity. I'm just going to let the wind blow dry this. Then I'm going to work on whatever's down here. What should I do? Maybe a lake or a field. Maybe a, I don't like to draw houses because everybody's house is different. grass valley with a stream running through it. But no, I already pulled it down, so that would have to be a, yeah, something very, very watery, like a lake or something. Oh, I need my other palette for my other colors. I'll be right back. This is my other palette. This one, you can already see that I've mixed all different kinds of colors and just techniques and everything, and it's like, it's very thin, very flat, but you can also see how it's warped from the watercolor, not watercolors, from the acrylics and the water. When I dip my brushes into it, the wood has definitely moved. This one is still flat because it was made in Italy. So I really like this one a lot more because I can also, once the acrylic dries up, all I have to do is take my palette knife and just scrape it off, just like nothing was there. But this one, it actually goes into the wood, so I like to use this for, what do you call it, like, for the blues and everything. Blues and reds are the ones that really stain a lot, and I don't mind being stained on my hands or fingers because I can eventually, and I got some white on there, I can eventually peel that off later or just wash it off. But this is my trusty one. I'm going to use some of this pale blue. You only need a tiny little bit. It says bright blue, but I think it says in Spanish azul brillante. It's bright blue, but that just means it's a better, crisper version of blue. Alright, and I think after I get the lake area done, then I can use the yellows and oranges to make the highlight of what's from the background shining onto the water to bring the background forward. Hey, here's another tool I like to use, is a toothbrush. If you're painting a galaxy scene or a space scene, that's all you gotta do is just flick it, and then you can make the Milky Way with a simple toothbrush. And that is a good item to have. Alright, this brush is nice and furry. I hope no hairs are gonna fall out of it. Alright, so let's dab a little paint here and there just to get the tips a little bit colorized. Now I'm sure you wonder, where did this lake come from? It came from the mountains, right? So then what I do is I take a fine brush, like this one I showed you earlier, the Lowell Cornell Shader 662 made in China. I'm going to take a tiny little bit of paint and I'm going to draw tiny little waterfall. Oh, I was watching something on, I think it was National Geographic or something. There's a fire waterfall that photographers and everybody wants to capture. A long time ago, there was this guy who used to dump coals in Yosemite National Park off of the side of the mountain, and when he was dumping coals off the side of the mountain, it turned into a fire waterfall. Well, they banned that from ever happening ever again, and then next thing you know, during a certain time of day and a certain time of year, there's this waterfall where the sunlight comes by and it hits it just right, so that it reflects all of the colors of the light spectrum, and it actually turns out to be a fire waterfall. Even though it's just regular water, the light colors and the color temperature of the whole fire colors and everything just like ignites it. I thought that was really amazing. Being an artist and also being, you know, working in television and photography and all that, it's like, wow, you can only capture that moment one at a time. I think I need a little bit more light blue here and there. I don't even know if anybody's watching this stream because I'm so involved with what I'm doing. But if you are, thanks for tuning in. Okay. Alright, I think that's all dry. I can get all this hair off of here. Where the hell did all this hair come from anyway? What a damn dog. If you are watching and if you have received one of my paintings before, you would notice like all the time and details that I put into it. Since this is just a YouTube video, it's not even a tutorial, it's just me having fun. It's not going to turn out exactly like all of the others that I've painted. There's some that I've sold for, you know, $20 to $30. Probably about the same size, and it's got the wood back, and the canvas is already like on there. I I don't know, if you like this one and if you want it, seeing it on live stream, then hit me